ensure the highest sound quality possible, all phone lines are muted. You may ask a question at any time throughout the session by using the question feature in GoToWebinar. We will address as many questions as possible at the end of the session. A recording of today's webinar will be emailed to all attendees later this week. Before we dive into content, I'd like to introduce you to today's speakers, Brian and Rob. Brian Sim is a Senior Product Marketing Manager for Marin Software's display advertising solution. Previously, he worked within the agency world, leading digital marketing strategy and campaign development for healthcare and CPG brands, and has also worked on developing products and growth strategies for very early stage startups. Brian graduated from the Wharton School with a BS in economics and concentrations in marketing and communications, and he obtained his MBA from UCLA Anderson. Rob Lenderman at Boost Media is the Chief Operations Officer and co-founded the company in 2009. Rob oversees ongoing business operations within Boost Media. After graduating college, Rob worked at a small consulting firm, building special project requests for companies such as the United States Postal Service and the U.S. Air Force. He would later move on to LendingTree.com and Interval International, another IAC company. After IAC, Rob moved on to join the team at Clearwire, which would eventually be acquired by the Sprint Corporation. Rob is a Georgia native, but currently makes his home in Seattle. He attended North Carolina State University, where he has a bachelor's degree in nuclear engineering. When not working at Boost Media, Rob likes playing paintball, remodeling houses, and building electric scooters from scratch. Great. I'll pass it along to our presenters.
Thanks, Ashley. So, hello everybody. My name is Brian Sim. I'm going to walk you through the agenda. So, first we're going to go through just what we mean by cross-device targeting. Cross-device tends to mean a lot of different things to different people. Secondly, we're going to sort of set up the meat of the presentation, mobile as a habit, and we'll give you an understanding of how mobile is changing the way people are consuming media and making significant impacts from an advertising standpoint as well. And finally, Rob will be walking you guys through some best practices as far as cross-device targeting and advertising. So before we jump in a little bit about Boost.
Yeah, hey, thanks Brian. This is Rob. So Boost Media is a company that's dedicated to using both software as well as harnessing the creative power of humans to drive increased performance across channels, across devices. We've been doing this for a number of years and worked for a number of different large enterprises as well as some medium-tier companies.
Cool, thanks Rob. And then just a little bit on Marin. As you guys may know, we're the industry-leading provider of a performance ad cloud for search, social, and display advertisers. And we help the world's leading advertisers and agencies save time and money by measuring, managing, and optimizing their campaigns across channels. So with that said, why don't we dive into this? What exactly do we mean by cross-device targeting? So as far as this webinar goes, we're going to break cross-device targeting down into two things. So the first aspect is the identification process. So you identify a user across different devices by matching different data points. And you could do this in a couple of ways. You can do this probabilistically, in which you take non-personal information like device characteristics, location, browsing behavior, and sort of make a best guess between the different users across different devices. Or you could do this deterministically, where you use some sort of personal information, like an app login or an email address, to match those users across those different devices. And the second aspect of cross-device targeting, obviously, is the targeting aspect. So once you've identified a user across multiple devices, you want to be able to target those people with a particular message based on what you already know about them. So it's all about fulfilling on this idea of delivering a better, smarter, creative execution to someone that's relevant to the context in which you're meeting that person. And this can apply across search, social display, or it can go sort of mixing and matching across different channels as well. Now, when we talk about cross-device targeting, a lot of times we're talking about the use case where a desktop user is targeted with an ad on their mobile device, or maybe vice versa. But that's just one of the possible examples of cross-device targeting. Actually encompasses a variety of different scenarios. So between different desktop devices, for example, so a person who might be on their PC at work and maybe a Mac laptop at home, you can connect people across different mobile devices, for example, someone using a smartphone and a tablet. And then you can also connect people between, obviously, the desktop and mobile devices. As mentioned, this involves a scenario where you might reach someone on their phone based on what you know about their browsing behavior on their laptop or their tablet. And finally, a little bit more further out is this idea of traditional and non-traditional devices. So marketers are showing increasing interest in tying together more traditional devices like PCs and smartphones and tablets, and finding ways to connect that person with non-traditional devices like, let's say, like a Roku or your Xbox or PS4. So there's a lot of different scenarios here, but with that said, oftentimes when we talk about cross-device, we're talking about mobile. And as far as this webinar goes, that's sort of where we're going to focus our attention. Because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that mobile is a habit like no other. So let's just walk through some of these numbers, because it can be eye-opening to see how far we've come in the past year or two as far as looking at things from a mobile-first perspective. So, habits are habits because obviously they're habitual. You got good habits like brushing your teeth or organizing your desk, and you got bad habits like biting your nails or watching crappy TV shows. But the thing is, these actions become ingrained to the point where you don't even realize what you're doing. And that's sort of where mobile is right now. It's different from using your computer or even your laptop because mobile fits so seamlessly into your everyday behavior. You don't have to walk over to your desk. You don't have to open your laptop lid and wait several seconds for your computer to wake up. Phones, tablets, they're just there, ready to use at any time. And in response, people have changed their behaviors by first keeping their smartphones by their side almost all the time. There's a Gallup poll earlier this year that found that 81% of smartphone owners keep their phones near them almost all the time during their waking hours. And if they asked whether they kept their phones near them when they go to bed, that number probably wouldn't change all that much. But not only are people keeping their phones around, I mean, we also keep our keys and wallets around us all the time too, but they're also checking their phones with incredible frequency. That same Gallup poll found that almost half of U.S. smartphone owners check their devices several times an hour or more. And for every 1 out of 10 people, they claim to check their phones every few minutes. Now, I won't comment as to whether it's a good or bad habit, but it does speak to how much mobile has impacted our lives. And another report, and I won't belabor this point that much more because I think you guys probably get the point, but a December 2014 study by Informant Insights found that Americans spend nearly 5 hours of their day on their smartphones. I think I can recall, maybe 15, 20 years back, the number was like the average American family watched like 6 hours of TV a day. Now that attention is on mobile, and the biggest difference between mobile and TV is how much more personal the experience can be. So with that said, we've been talking from a marketing standpoint, we've been talking about this user shift towards mobile for the past few years now. Sort of as if it were an oncoming wave, but in reality that wave has come and passed, both from where people are spending their time, but actually also where marketers are spending their money. And that part is a bit eye-opening to me because I've been under the impression that mobile spend still needed ways to go for a number of reasons. For one, conversions generally aren't as strong on mobile compared to desktop devices. Targeting on mobile is still a bit rudimentary and opaque compared to desktop, and it just seems like there's so many different avenues on desktop to spend your marketing dollars. I wouldn't have expected mobile to catch up to desktop spending as quickly as it has, and through 2014 I would have been right, but if you look at the chart on the left, you'll see that in 2015 mobile has actually caught up and passed desktop in terms of digital ad spending. And by next year, that ratio is going to become even more further pronounced on the mobile side, with over 60% of marketing spend going towards mobile. So now the interesting point about all this is more attention is spent on mobile because more marketing dollars as more attention is spent on mobile, more marketing dollars are being spent there as well. But I think if I were to take a survey of 100 marketers and ask where they thought most of the conversions were happening and what that split between desktop and mobile might be, I think the answers would be overwhelmingly slanted towards believing that customers still go to their computers or their laptops to make the purchase. And the thing is, that is correct. The numbers do back that up. Mobile commerce represents only 22% of total e-commerce sales volume. But you can also take that 22% and look at it in a different light. You know, if I asked those same people and told them that every $1 out of $4 spent online was actually spent through mobile devices, I think I'd get a lot more skepticism around that. So it's this weird mix, you know. You're right in thinking that mobile doesn't drive as many sales and conversions as desktop. However, marketers probably underestimate how much volume mobile does drive. Yet, if you look at the ad spending dollars, so going back to the previous slide, if you look on the right-hand chart, or sorry, the left-hand chart, you can make an argument that maybe too much money is being spent on mobile in comparison to the revenue it drives. So I think this is an interesting case of marketers investing for the future and where we're moving to. And as far as driving these changes in terms of mobile conversions and revenue, there's a lot of impact over the past year or two, I think, that we can point to for moving that trend along. So for one, the mobile experience has improved significantly. While checking out on the mobile web is still sort of a sucky experience, mainly because remembering passwords and entering them are a pain. But most established retail brands now have a fully featured mobile app that simplifies the process. So like Amazon's one-click ordering. And obviously features like mobile wallets, Apple and Android Pay, PayPal have also helped simplify the processes. You don't have to memorize your credit card details or enter it every time. That's a huge deal. Secondly, some of the transactional ways we've begun to use our phone. For example, you know, instead of calling taxis, we now reserve Ubers and Lyfts have likely played a strong role in helping people get over that initial hesitance. If you've ever called a Lyft on your phone and paid for that Lyft using your phone, there's not really a big difference between that and buying a pair of shoes on Amazon using your phone. And then thirdly, you know, there are now retail experiences that may not be completely mobile, but are designed to be consumed primarily on mobile. So retailers like Jet, secondary markets like Poshmark, even older school e-commerce sites like Groupon, and they've optimized themselves for the mobile experience, and that sort of helped move the whole industry forward. And all this has helped prop up mobile spending from an ad standpoint, but it's also helped increase people's intent to purchase through mobile as well. Almost 40% of shoppers have made 6+ mobile purchases in the past year, and an eMarketer report found that in this upcoming holiday season, for smartphone owners, 43% of them plan to make purchases on their smartphone versus 58% on their desktops or laptops. So it's that gap is narrowing down. So with that said, though, for now and as far as this holiday season goes, mobile's primary role still functions to aid the consumer decision-making process. There's a few dominant use cases for how mobile does this, which Rob will be walking you through in the upcoming section. However, the main use cases that mobile tends to help provide is first, in-store product and brand research. Whether it's showrooming or reverse showrooming, the plain fact is that mobile is just the easiest, most immediate way to get some insight into whether that pair of headphones that you're thinking of buying is any good, and if you're getting it at a good price. Secondly, mobile is also used widely for social validation prior to making the purchase. So whether it's shouting out to your friends on Facebook for their opinions on something, or whether it's searching in real time on something like Twitter to see what else people are saying about a product that helps people sort of get some social validation into the decisions they're about to make. And finally, mobile serves as the great assister. It's the Chris Paul of devices, with people often turning to on-demand tools like mobile couponing to make their offline shopping experience better, more productive, and more efficient. So with that said, I will now turn things over to Rob, who's going to walk you through some best practices.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So let's look at a couple of different things here as we look at mobile. A number of different things that are so important is mostly around the context and location and your behavior being a little different. So let's look at an example here and the major differences between desktop and mobile users and how the context is really the key here. Users on desktop are typically conducting heavy searches back and forth, reading reviews, going through a lot of different things in detail. They also typically have more time. It's usually in the evening where they're sitting down and can sort of browse through what they're trying to do, wander around the internet a little bit more. And then they have a much larger screen. As was said earlier, the device that you're on does make things different, and so having that screen makes it easier and keyboard makes it easier to type in things and buy things, as well as password managers and all these kinds of things that you typically have on a desktop. The mobile user, however, is typically on the go, on the bus, on the subway, walking down the street, sitting at lunch, whatever it might be. They have small amounts of time usually dedicated to whatever they're trying to do. They're also seeking information in quick bites because of that time. So they're not looking to read or watch a 15-minute video on something, but they are looking to read, have someone say, this restaurant's really great, buy this item there, whatever it might be, as well as looking at ratings of things. They're also, because of that time again, they're less patient and task-driven. They're going to be where I need something, I need it now, I want to accomplish the goal and move on. And then it also is something that can drive those in-store visits and store calls. You're out somewhere already, you think, hey, a certain store is nearby, do they have an item in stock, do they have something I'm looking for, are they open right now, all sorts of things that are just different from desktop. So it's important to keep that in mind in the rest of everything we're going to talk about, because that's what drives the way that you treat people and speak to them and their behavior. So in particular, what you want to look at is things like location, so the dynamics of where the search takes place. Is it down the street from you, or is it across town? If you, for instance, have multiple chains and you have multiple locations, how you're targeting affects pointing to people is really important because of where they're located. The other is the intent. Learning how to look at what they're searching on is going to be important, because based on what they're searching on, you can understand what they're looking for. Are they looking to learn more, for instance, in, say, a desktop? It's a higher in the funnel purchase or step. Or are they looking to buy now? They're looking for store hours. They're looking for things like that, where your language of your ads can change to match their intent. And then that device, that physical device is very, very important. Historically, desktop was all the same. Whether you had a really big screen or a medium-sized screen, it didn't make a big difference. But now, as phones have radically changed the way you have to design your site, they've also changed the behavior of people. As Brian mentioned, people don't want to sit there and enter their name and address and phone number and credit card and all that kind of thing. So it's difficult. That's one of the drivers, we believe, behind seeing volume increases on mobile, but not necessarily seeing sales at the same rate, because the experience is different. So you can't easily do it, and you get around this with having apps, and things like Amazon has apps. So let's look at an example here of the kind of language that you use on desktop versus mobile. You'll notice here a couple of similarities and a couple of differences. So on desktop and mobile, this is for someone looking for car insurance. And so in the first title, we're using the same thing. It's the brand name, the car insurance. You'll notice the last line, the URL, same thing. But where we start to differentiate is we start to talk about the different experience that you're going to have, because that context matters. So on the desktop, you're sitting at home, you're getting started today with a free quote. What does that mean? It means I'm going to type in my information, I'm going to put my VIN number in, all sorts of things. I'm going to tell you what type of car I have, and you're going to give me a quote. Very traditional things that go along with this. Whereas in mobile, you're actually trying to explain to someone it's easy. It's not going to be as hard as what you're imagining, what you're used to. And so that free quote on your phone says that. There's a few other things that we start to use here. We start to use the mobile-friendly language. The value proposition is still there. The call extension is added because we know you have a phone in your hand. Whereas in the desktop, you probably don't have a phone in your hand. It may be in the other room charging. You probably don't have a phone sitting next to your computer or your laptop. So using language that you take the best parts of desktop, like the saving $500, everybody likes that. But then you change the language to fit that context. So that's what's really important here. So at the end of the day, these what we call mobile moments require this relative creative, and that's the difference we believe between having poor performing mobile ad copy and ad marketing campaigns and having exceptional ones. So let's look at a couple of different things. So Google has done some work around these moments, and they have these 4 moments that they define. They're not specific to mobile. We're going to talk about how they differentiate when you're looking at mobile or desktop. They're the I want to know moments. So they're the things where we say to ourselves, I want to learn something. I'm looking for information on a particular area. In mobile devices, it's instant access to this information. 65% of information, online consumers look up more information online than years ago because it's available now. We know now that there are product ratings. We know now that there are restaurant ratings and all sorts of things. The second is I want to go moments. So I want to go eat. I want to go get my car fixed. I want to do this. I want to do that. One of the things that's happened with mobile is that the product itself, the mobile product, the Google Maps and all those kinds of things have gotten really good. And because of that, our mentality has changed. And as our mentality's changed, it's changed to one of, I know that if I search for something, I can tell if it's nearby to accomplish my goals and go do what I need to do now. Years ago, before cell phones were able to do that, you would go home or you would call the 411 and things like that. And so it's with the ease of getting this information, our behavior is changing. There's also the I want to do moments. So if you look at I want to do something like I want a home project or I want to complete a task, people are turning to those things when they're out and about because they know that it's something they've been thinking about, they're near the store, maybe they can go by and check it out. And most of the 91% of smartphone users turn to phones for ideas while doing a task. So you're renovating part of your house, you're doing something in your living room, redecorating, whatever it might be. You look to your smartphone a lot of times when you're out to try to understand more ideas. And then there's the last moment, which is I want to buy moments. So you're looking to buy. And shoppers are checking their phones for more information, better pricing. You're in the store, you see it, and you say, is this the best price? Am I getting ripped off? What's happening here? And you want to be able to understand the landscape. You know, are you going to save $1 by driving 10 miles? Or are you going to save $50 by driving 10 miles? You know, what's the difference? And so that's the want to buy moment. So let's go into a couple examples here and how they differentiate on desktop versus mobile. So the I want to know moments. So I want to know how to speak French. So if this is something that you're looking to do, on the desktop, you're typically at home or you're at work. You want to learn French, but you're not sure how online programs work, what it costs. It's not really clear, but it's sort of assumed that you're going to be sitting at your computer with the speakers and listening the traditional program that you're used to. Seeking to guarantee as well, you want to ensure that the program works, that it's not just a fly-by-night type program that doesn't work very well and you've wasted your money. So as you look at the example here, it's trying our free demo, learning French in minutes, 30-day guarantee, all these things are being addressed. If you look at the mobile experience, however, typically someone that's on mobile, so you're sitting on the bus and you've got a 30-minute commute. So someone that's trying to learn to speak French but is doing the research on their mobile phone, we can assume a few things about them. One is they are currently mobile and that they probably have enough time, because they have time to search, they're not driving. We know that they have enough time to research things. And we know that they probably have headphones, and so they have an ability to use their phone to potentially practice. And so learning French fast, they want to listen to some lessons via their mobile phone, give them experience of what it's like, what it's going to be like sitting on the bus. So downloading your first lesson free, listening instantly on your phone, getting that experience out there, and then the call to action of call so we can talk to you about it. So as we look at the second moment here, I want to go eat some Chinese food. And what's the difference here? So on a desktop, if you're searching at home, you're at home typically, or you're at work, you're looking for a delivery. Most people don't eat, no, they don't sit at home, they look for Chinese food, they go out, they pick it up, they bring it back home. It's a little rare compared to I want a delivery. You do want to read the reviews, make sure the food's good, make sure everything is acceptable, and understand what you should order because you don't necessarily know. So if you look at the ads here, it's no frill Chinese dining and delivery, view the menus, ordering online. We know we can type online and it's easy to order because we're going to put in our name and our credit card and everything. Whereas on mobile, it's a little different. You're on the go, you're walking down the street, you say to yourself, I want Chinese food, I want it before I get home, I want to pick it up and take it home. So you're going to pick it up, take it out, you're walking by the store in the next 30 seconds to a minute. You want easy online ordering systems, but you also may need to call. So one of the things that about this particular example is being able to use the mobile menu and ordering and calling. Notice the call button. You can call and say, I want the certain item that I want, and I'm going to be there in 3 minutes. And so you're able to do that much faster, and I'm going to pay you when I get in the store. You're able to do that much faster than trying to type on the phone. So it's a different type of experience, and it's because you're on mobile. The next one is I want to do moments. So I want to do a home improvement task, like laying a new tile floor. The desktop customer, again, typically at home, they're researching different types of tile and techniques and things like that that are available. They're not really sure what they want to do. They're looking at their bathroom. They're evaluating costs. Should I ship it to my house? Because it's going to be heavy. How much is that? Because I'm sitting of tile. On mobile, customers walking around the store, you've already got all the inventory in front of you. So you don't necessarily need to see all of the inventory at that time because it's right in front of you. What you do want to understand a tile floor, you actually don't know much about it. And so you have a sort of a different problem, which is how do I do this? What do I need to buy? Do I need one of the tile I want because it's right in front of me? And so the way that it works, so that's important to understand. The next one is this I want to buy. So I want to buy something, an example here is I want to buy a new tent. So as we look at the desktop, we look at your at work potentially shopping for an upcoming camping trip, you're maybe at home, you want a high quality tent, you want a warranty on it, you need it shipped quickly, you're not necessarily interested in going to the store and picking up this big tent. You want to see pictures of it, you can imagine it says it sleeps 6 people, you can get all that stuff. So in the desktop app, we're talking about the quality, the great selection. You need to see a lot of them because you're not in the store. You actually don't get to see anything. So it's important to show the selection. Free shipping and handling. You don't, a tent's big. You assume, whether correctly or incorrectly, you assume that typically shipping is going to be expensive, and by calling out the free shipping, it's going to help to overcome that friction. On the mobile side, however, you're on your morning commute. You're thinking about buying a tent. You're not sure what kind. You don't know what it is. You still need to look at the selections and read customer reviews, but you're out and about already, and so you're looking at, hey, I'll go to the store location. It's a little easier for me to walk by there and look at it since I'm already out, and look at what the tent looks like, maybe sit in one, and then potentially take one home or call and see what you might have available. So let's get into the 8 practices here. We have 8 best practices you should know. So Brian, why don't you start us off here?
I'll kick this off. I think we promised 5. We're giving you 8. You guys are getting your money's worth. So first of all, obviously when you're doing cross-device, when you're doing mobile, you want to determine what your goals are. Are you trying to drive awareness? Are you trying to facilitate a conversion? Are you trying to get someone to actually make the conversion? Or are you trying to re-engage with someone based on previous interactions? That's going to impact the moments that Rob talked about that you consider. It's going to impact your message and the context in which you're going to engage with your potential customers. Secondly, you want to segment your audiences, and this is just like you do on desktop. I think a lot of times we find that When clients run mobile campaigns, they sort of just blast it out, do broad targeting. That sort of misses a big opportunity because obviously people have different intent on mobile just as they do on desktop as well. And then I will turn it over to Rob.
Yeah. So the next one is adding at least one mobile preferred ad to each of your ad groups. So one of the things that I know Google will show regular non-optimized mobile ads everywhere, it's not optimal. As we've seen in the examples, the language that you use needs to be different. So you want to have at least one of those to ensure that you're capable of showing different language. The second is creating and testing multiple ad variations. This goes across the board, whether it's desktop or mobile, but you want to make sure that you always have something running that you're testing to ensure that you have the right language. The next is 5, is sending users to mobile optimized landing pages. As Brian was showing, the volume is there, but the conversions aren't there yet. And the number one thing that we think is the problem is that you don't want to fill out forms, things like that, on your phone. It's too difficult. So we want to be able to send people to mobile optimized web pages. Maybe you don't ask for as much information. You make it a little easier for them to push through. You also should highlight this mobile-friendly experience in the ad copy. When you tell people it's easier, we have seen doubling and tripling of conversion and of clicks when you tell someone that the experience is going to be easy. As an example, how many times you've gone to a web page, it's not mobile optimized, you go to the shopping cart, and the fields are tiny, they don't fit on the screen, you can't really read them, it's just not ideal. And so making it a mobile-friendly experience and telling people about it is a big deal. Build and promote a mobile app. This is the number one way that we've seen to increase conversions. If you think about using your Uber app or your Lyft app or your Amazon app or whatever it might be, those apps help people because they no longer have to enter their information. My own personal experience is I buy way more on Amazon than I buy from anybody else simply because the app makes it easy. The last one is measuring beyond that last click. A lot of times as the world becomes more fragmented in terms of behavior and mobile and things like that, you want to be able to look past just the click and look beyond that. So for instance, on mobile, someone's walking by your store, they call you, they place an order, they keep on moving. Starting to line up things like when you make sales and when you're marketing and where you're marketing and where they're coming from. Those kinds of things will help you to get beyond that sort of last click and attribute things properly. So let's sort of sum it up here. Brian, why don't you take it away?
Sure. So like we mentioned, cross-device isn't only mobile, but at the moment it is primarily mobile focused. Secondly, you still want to go about, when you're running mobile, when you're running cross-device targeting campaigns, you still want to go about defining your goals and segmenting your audiences just like you do with a desktop campaign. Thirdly, context matters, like Rob talked about with the 4 moments. Device users have different objectives than desktop users, which leads to the fourth bullet point in that when you're creating messaging, when you're delivering that messaging to those users, you have to take account the context in which people are encountering that message, where they are location-wise, what their intent might be, as well as the realities and sometimes the limitations of the devices they're on. And finally, once you've done all that, you still need, more than anything, you need relevant creative. It's all well and good to segment your audience and consider all the different scenarios that they might be thinking about when they're encountering your brand. But if you end up using the same ads on desktop and mobile, you're not going to drive the results as you would if you customize that creative for the specific device.
Cool. So we have an opportunity for people to ask questions now. So if you'd like to ask some questions, please put them in into the chat box, and we'll get to them. Excuse me.
Great.
So we'll give you.
Well, we've gotten a few so far, Rob.
Okay.
I'm going to just go ahead and ask them in the order that they came in. So the first question: how many ads should I be running in an ad group?
Sure, I'll take that one. So that depends on a couple of different things. So one thing is that you should always look to be testing at most times of the year. Obviously, testing creative in a very high volume ad group in the peak season is probably not a good idea. should have figured it out before then. But typically what we like to see is we like to see 2 to 3 ads per target. So 2 to 3 desktop ads, 2 to 3 mobile ads is enough to allow you to differentiate your message, test different things. Along with that, however, is that strategy is not very useful if you're not getting rid of the poor performers. So if you have an ad that is dramatically underperforming, leaving it around is actually costing you money. And so you're not actually testing, you're just wasting money. So as long as you are culling out the losers very quickly, then you will be, you should always be running a handful of ads.
Okay, this next question I think would be good for you, Brian. I don't have a mobile optimized site. What should I do?
Oh, man. If you don't have a mobile optimized site, you shouldn't run any mobile ads is the honest answer. I don't have any numbers in front of me, but I've definitely seen studies that show that when you drive someone to a desktop site on mobile, it's essentially a big waste of money. So I'd suggest you just take the month or so that it takes to get a mobile version of your site up, and that will make any future mobile ad spending, future cross-device targeting stuff that you do that much more effective.
Okay, great. I think this is another good question for you, Brian. How do you suggest we track users across multiple devices so we can do true multi-click attribution?
Sure. So multi-channel attribution, I guess, could be its own topic in of itself. If you work with sort of a singular provider like Marin, we do deduplicating conversions across channels and devices, so you'll get sort of a singular picture of the conversions that you're driving. However, you don't always have that luxury, so in these cases, you might want to look at a third-party attribution partner like an Odometry or a Convertro to sort of explore further.
Okay, great. This is a good one for you, Rob. Do mobile optimized ads apply to display and social campaigns?
Yeah, so yes, the display, especially like GDN, is one area where you're going to see that applicable. It's also, as you expand beyond and you get into Facebook advertising and things like that, it's almost by definition these days that a lot of the volume is mobile. That's sort of been Facebook's challenge over the years, is to get, as people move to mobile, how to monetize it. So you are going to want to do the same thing on those channels to ensure that you are treating people the right way and that they understand the context. As Brian just said, when you send someone to a traditional heavy desktop site on a mobile phone and expect them to buy anything, chances are slim they're not going to. And so you want to have the site there, but also telling them about it is how you can really drive that volume.
Okay. That looks like all the questions we've gotten today. Thank you everyone for attending. We'll make sure to send out a recording and supplementary information about cross-device targeting to you in the next day or so. Thank you.
Thank you.